Welcome to the Create with Katrina Julia show by Fit Life Creation, where we talk all the things on wellness, faith, marketing, business, and travel to create a life and business you love. I've been there, friend. I've walked from fear to faith, self-hate to love, corporate to calling, and bondage to freedom, along with transformation in every area of my life. I'm right here with you, walking along on my own path to creating. So tune in so that you learn how to create a life and business you love, hands-on. Let's create it.
Are you ready to take your marketing like a boss with Black Friday and beyond? Keep listening to boost your Black Friday strategy with my fractional CMO and marketing A to Z free quiz. This free quiz will help you identify where you're at with your strategy, your structure, your systems, with your marketing, with Black Friday, with monetizing, and so much more. When you take the free quiz, I and the team will personally reach out to help you create it with resources. Definitely check out my YouTube video and the video in the show notes at Fractional CMO Like a Boss, so that you have me personally walking you through the quiz and insights and downloads. And you can get a free call with me if you are serious about having a fractional CMO work with you one-on-one for Black Friday and beyond to really take your business to the next level. So let's create it. Buy now, pay later. And is it smart for you and or smart for your business? So when I came back to the US in 2022, I noticed the increase in the options to buy now and pay later with options with fintech, so finance tech, options like Klarna, like Affirm, and like Afterpay. And the majority of them allow you to split payments into four, with others having different options depending on your credit and so on and so forth. And there are some things you definitely want to keep in mind on a personal level and walking into this holiday season wise, and budgeting and making sure that we are not overspending, especially those of you that likely or maybe like me that are increasingly getting wiser and wiser with your finances and focused on being and becoming free in all forms. And that includes being on a path to purpose and profits and being and becoming financially free. And considering things like budgeting for holiday expenses, considering things like making things or offering experiences, and where we may try to overcompensate and give from a state of scarcity and not necessarily overflow. And I know I have definitely been guilty of that in the past and not living in within my means, especially when it came to holidays and gift giving, and which can be, it's like a double-edged sword, because generosity is a great thing, but when we give from a state of overflow, it's very different than when we are charging on credit cards or overspending or spending money that we don't have, and that deep down inside we likely know, and I know I was definitely guilty of that, where wait a minute, this could be used to pay off debt, this could be used for savings that I don't have in X moment, right? So when I came back in 2022, I noticed this in rapid rise with fintech like Affirm, like Klarna, and Buy Now, or Afterpay. And essentially they're buy now, pay later. And like I mentioned, typically splitting into 4 payments. And I immediately was really grateful for them because at times that I have had cash flow crunches and had the option interest free to split it something out that I needed, like groceries, for example, to be split out into 4 payments was an incredible gift. So I'm contrasting now where I once overspent in gift giving with using these buy now, pay me later. I'm sorry, buy now, pay later, but sure, buy now, pay me now is what I would call it. Using them for times and expenses that you really need, which they also have strategically tapped into because when I came back to Atlanta, for example, I noticed that groceries literally cost double for the same essential items that I would need, right? And then I also recognize because of my experiences with things like Dave Ramsey, Clever Girl Finance, and other finance programs that I've spent time in, invested time in, radically changed my money habits in many ways on my journey. That has not been easy on a personal level, and really diving into identity, worthiness, and so much more. Recognized where you can radically overspend, especially if you are struggling with identity and worthiness and wanting to give. And especially as we walk into, this Black Friday, Cyber Monday, and, beyond season, right? On a personal level. So I'm going to talk about a personal level and then I'm going to talk about a business level because I believe they can be smart in different ways. But then I also want to share, like, for example, I added Affirm and Afterpay, and Klarna is in the process of being added on Kajabi and on different ways that, people may purchase from me. And I am also sharing this to share, hey, if you can pay X off in 4 payments and you are making a wise decision and you have the cash flow and or you really feel, your purpose and your calling, is being tied to whatever X purchase you make with me or with us or with another, creator and or another way you may use Klarna, Affirm, or Afterpay, then really dig deep into that, and pray about it and seek inner guidance and so on and so forth. At the same time, when you are walking into, on a personal note, Black Friday, and we're talking about now gifting, okay? Then a couple of things I want to point out on Black Friday and then also buy now, pay later programs. And Ramsey Solutions has a great article on this with ramseysolutions.com/debt /digital installment plans, because you absolutely want to consider several things, and it is in essence, like I shared, a short-term installment loan that breaks up purchases into equal payments that you pay over a set amount of time. Think of it as layaway and credit, quote unquote, falling in love, getting married, and having a baby. An ugly baby is what they call it, in this article. And the use of buy now, pay laters has skyrocketed. And I believe it's because of several things. Our cultural influences, our FOMO, when we don't break free from those things, increasing, inflation, especially in the United States and all around the world that I've seen as well in different things. And then also our identity and worthiness and wanting to give from a state of scarcity and not from overflow, not from money that we have as we're walking in this Black Friday, Cyber Monday, and then holiday season. So just to give you some stats, the dollar value of buy now, pay later programs in the US grew from $2 billion in 2019 to 24 billion. Yes, 24 billion, 12x. So, on a personal note, I want to invite you to look at my blog post and show on how to make and manage money like a boss, and where I break in things like budgeting and even more. So that number is expected to hit 180 billion with a B by 2025. So they have been issuing loans left and right to the tune of 180 million loans with an average size of $135. And that's in 2021. And I'm sure that has increased in 2022 and 2023. So those are some key stats and things, to think about it. So you really want to think about saying no to them. And I know this is coming. You may be like, wait a minute, Katrina, you just told me you've used them. Yes, I've used them in times where I literally, even as I was creating wealth, as I was taking aligned action left and right, but was not, or, did not yet receive cash, I looked at them almost like as a last resort before looking elsewhere to a friend or a family member, because it's still debt. And it's still, like, in my mind, I was still looking at, like, well, I still have X debt, I still have Y debt. But it was very different, being very vulnerable, open, and transparent, very humble, open, and transparent. It was, okay, let me use them for groceries. Let me use them, to delay, X while I'm trying to create wealth. Let me use them to pay for, a month with Airbnb and, spread out the cash flow, like not paying immediately $500 or $700, but let me use this option and it's interest free. So that's being me, me being transparent, right? However, if I would have used them 10, 15, 20 years ago, I can tell you right now, I would have been using them left and right for things, going back to identity issues, worthiness issues, FOMO, um, keeping up with the Joneses, etc. So I mentioned Klarna, Affirm, Afterpay. I still have a small balance right now that I'm paying off with Klarna and Affirm. And I did include a link, full disclaimer, I did include a link to Klarna for you to use. And again, use it wisely. There's other providers like Sezzle, Zip, Uplift, PayPal, Split It. I paid off everything except for one thing with Uplift, just as an aside note. And so if you use them, I really want you to use them wisely, from a state of overflow, thinking about what you're using them for, and then your own cash flow. And then again, I know some of you have been or are in circumstances or situations where, cash flow is a challenge, and you are or have used them in ways that I've used them as well. At the same time, walking into Black Friday, if you choose to use them to purchase any type of gifts, again, I'm going to give that disclaimer to really think of, you know, are you and will you be able to pay them off in 4 payments? And are you over giving and living beyond means? And or how can you create wealth? How can you submit for business to business proposals, for sharing your online courses, sharing one-on-ones with you, sharing VIP offers, to truly put yourself out there in the sense of that you are choosing to create wealth, especially with the plethora of remote opportunities and more. And then also, some of you may want to consider also being and becoming a creator and or a coach, with opportunities that I have with Herbalife Global Nutrition and more via www.bit.ly/FLC influencer, including different media opportunities as well. So definitely check that out. Now, let's shift gears with integrating, and I've kind of already mentioned this or led into this, Klarna, Affirm, Afterpay into your courses. Okay. So a couple of things, and piggybacking off of the last episode where I talked about what New York Times was saying about Black Friday. So here's where you start to put on your business and strategic hat, which is also why I mentioned, if you purchase from me, whether it is a CMO program, whether it's a retreat with co-living or vacations, or, retreats, you can also use potentially if you purchase via Kajabi, Klarna and or Afterpay and or Affirm. And so you want to think about that from a business standpoint. And New York Times talks about where, using the same data that or similar type data that Ramsey Solutions talked about, pay later orders rose 85% and revenue increased 88% because just like anything else, just like weight loss, just like a healthy active lifestyle, sometimes some people can use things in moderations and or simply use it to literally delay cash flow, right? And your business can absolutely leverage and benefit from integrating a buy now, pay me later, because maybe someone, for example, like in my case, maybe someone won't be able to get a course if they pay for it outright, like our Create It Summit or like my influencer course or others, but they can absolutely wisely use it, between 4 payments and or like a global retreat, right? Like that's an example. I did that with Virgin Voyages myself last year. So some of the revenue increases like 88% plus. So that is something that you can catapult off of. And then speaking of, when you go to Klarna.com, for example, you can select the business logon and start to list deals just like Nike lists deals, just like Apple lists deals. Their ear pods were listed on there, and several other global retailers that likely you're following the trends. You learn from them. Like I talked about in the last episode, like I talked about Barbie marketing as a $1 billion genius and so much more. Because some of that you may look at like it's a $1 billion genius and some of it's brainwashing. But either way, we can absolutely learn from what was done in that marketing and then how our businesses and how our may benefit from that, and then how our purpose may profit and expand in ways that we likely have not done and or thought about. So are you team buy now, pay later? From a personal standpoint, from a business standpoint, or both? What are some things that came up for you from this snapshot? And this is not sponsored yet. This is me simply sharing on my own personal and business insights, and then what I've also seen from Ramsey Solutions, from New York Times, and then things to be aware of on a personal and or business level. Do you think it is dumb? Do you think it is smart? Do you think it is both? Kind of what I talked about from a personal standpoint and or a business standpoint. Share with me in your stories. Tag me at Katrina Julia Fit at Fit Life Creation. Leave a review on the show so I can shout you out. I'll also enter you into a giveaway for Create It Monthly. And as always, friends, remember, create, transform, and inspire. You are born to.
And chats on faith, wellness, money, marketing, business, and travel so you create a life and business already. Head on over to the blog, the podcast, and the freebies to jumpstart your transformation. If you're ready to dive into the online courses, the live events, or the retreat, and if you want to create with our community on an even deeper level, definitely check out our internships, our influencer collaborations, management, and brand engagement. Let's create it.